Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Love Your Larynx, a 14-day series where we learn everything about our larynx, which is a fancy word for voice box, and how to love on it like crazy. So how to take care of it, what it does for you, and how to express it fully using your singing voice. Okay. My name is Carissa Schrader. I'm here at the Bold Vocal Studio, and today I'm talking about warming up and cooling down. So let me share my screen with you and we will jump right in. This one's a little lengthy, so we'll try and make it quick. Okay, so we'll go back up to the top here. And present. I chose a Wayne's World quote to start this one off because I was feeling silly, and it is, makes me feel kind of funny, like when we used to climb the rope in gym class, which really has nothing to do with your voice. I just think warm-ups feel really good. So that's me being a nerd. Okay, moving on. Why are we warming up? Because singing is an athletic event. So I want you to start really thinking about yourself like an athlete, okay? Compare yourself to an athlete, a tennis player, an Olympian, an NFL player. It doesn't really matter, a golfer. It's something that requires physical endurance as well as high mental engagement, as well as like really big energy pushes for long periods of time. So it's no different than playing a sport competitively. Um, Anatomy of a good warm up. Let's talk about it. So this is a way to activate your breath and your body. So you want to get the blood flow circulating, you want to get the breath moving, and also by using your breath to begin your warm up, you're going to kind of set the tone. You're telling your body, hey, we're arriving. You're letting your mind kind of settle in, and I want you, when you come into your warm up, just to imagine a little box, and I want you to put all of your thoughts and worries in it and tie a nice little bow on it and place it aside and put a gift tag on it that says, this is your anxiety for later. You can come back to me. I'll be here waiting for you. Hi. Right? So we want to kind of let the mind start to focus in on the task at hand. And I do that by starting in the breath. Later in the series, we will have some more tips about how to breathe for singing, but in general, you want your shoulders to stay still, your chest to stay low, and to fill up the air low into the belly. So there's lots of resources online for that if you don't know what I'm talking about, and later in the series, we will have that. I will also link here to my full body warm up that I have on my YouTube channel, which is like a good 30-40 minute run. So it's actually a full warm up. So it's gonna start off in breathing, and it's gonna start off in the body. So I also stretch when I start to warm up. So I'll take my arms up overhead with an inhale. I'll fold forward on an exhale, sort of like a really gentle modified sun salutation if you are a yogi. Of course, I'm not going into any vinyasa flows. I'm just kind of reaching tall and folding forward and breathing and just loosening up the shoulders and the neck and the back and the jaw. And we really just want to find some release early on. So we're getting the blood flow going, we're getting the breath going, and then we want to release tension. So you can do that by physically massaging places that hold tension. A lot of times it's the jaw, the shoulders, the temples, and then we kind of want to stretch the face. So I'll take the jaw low, stretch the eyebrows high, and then loosen the tongue root. This muscle here that holds the tongue and controls the tongue is a giant, super strong muscle. The jaw too. It carries the most pressure per square inch in your whole body as far as muscle capacity. It is the strongest muscle you have as far as that goes. So it carries a lot of tension, and I'm sure if you guys have ever been stressed, you find yourself kind of clenching your jaw or gritting your teeth or grinding when you sleep. All of those things need to be undone so we don't impede our vocal tone. Next, in the anatomy of a good warm-up, we have it begins gently and then intensifies. So after we've kind of started the breath and the body flow, I want you to start on some sirens, some humming, something that kind of gently touches the corners of the range without being too abrasive or too many big jumps in between. You want to start with slides, which connect the registers, so sirens, and you want to start with humming, which is another way to calm yourself down and arrive in your practice. Humming is really cool from the nerd standpoint because it actually stimulates your vagus nerve. Hold on. Bring my shared window to the front. Okay. I think that works. I hope so. Okay. So vagus nerve runs from your brainstem down to your gut, which they're calling your second brain now, the gut biome. And it is the 10th chordal nerve. It helps control the autonomic nervous system. So flight, fight, or freeze response, anxiety response. That nerve has a lot of communication around it. And humming stimulates the nerve and makes you calm AF. So if you're kind of centering in for the night, getting ready to sing, humming is wonderful. It's also naturally resonant, so you're going to find resonance there right away. Next, you want to make sure to hit all 5 vowels and throughout your range. Generally, ah and o tend to sit low. A and I like to live in that mid voice, and then oo and e live up high in the voice. So you'll want to kind of hit all of those vowels throughout the range, and then maybe like change it up a little. See what happens if you take the ah and the o and try and sing it high. See how you have to modify that vowel to make it feel good in your voice and sound good coming back to you. And that is a great piece of information to develop about yourself and just know how you pronounce vowels properly in each place of your voice and how they work. And maybe one's stronger than the other, right? So we're just really developing awareness here about how your voice functions. You want to touch each register. So chest voice, middle voice, high voice. Chest voice, again, ahs and ohs, or like, and you can use kind of Z sounds to get that full voice. Zoo, 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 za, 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 za. Really open up, right? But then you also want to get into the head voice, nice and light. Something like that, right? And then the middle voice, you're going to get in that kind of that diagonal cheekbone and below mouth resonance. So like ma 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 ma, or nya 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 nya. All those really nasal sounds, those are going to be the ones to use there. Can I warm up on songs is a question I get a lot, and the answer is not really. Yes, you can, but it's not really a warm up. It's more just kind of like easing your toe into the water before stepping all the way in. And it's still not a bad idea to put songs that you're really confident and comfortable with on the beginning part of your set, just so you can walk out with confidence and nail it and know that there's nothing you're going to be reaching for or worried about when you very first start performing. But a warm-up serves a different purpose, and you notice that warm-ups happen they happen within the space of vowels and sounds and buzzes and hums and lip rolls, which I'm going to get into right now. They serve a different purpose than singing, which is all in the form of language, okay? So each one is going to touch a different part of the voice and activate it. SOVTs and straw exercises are some of my favorite ways to warm up the voice. The first one is SOVT, semi-occluded vocal tract, and that is just fancy language that means a partially blocked airway, which normally would be bad, right? But in this case, it's our lips, teeth, or tongue or a straw sometimes that are blocking it. And what happens when you do this, and I'll get into it a little bit more detailed in a second, is that it creates back pressure, because normally there's subglottal pressure coming up from the lungs hitting the glottis, which is where the opening and closing of the trachea is, right where your vocal cords sit. And that air pressure coming up from the lungs hits it, and then it comes forward and out through the vocal tract. The vocal tract just means the track on which the vocal flows. So from the voice box through the mouth and nose and all the open space in between. So when we semi-occlude or partially block the vocal tract by either lip bubble, like keeping your lips together, or like I call this the Louis Armstrong, I'm just leaving a teeny opening in my lips, or rolling your R's, or Z's, or V's, like very good. That's the teeth blocking. So instead of like, ah, where all of that airflow is coming straight out the mouth, we are actually blocking it partially with our lips, teeth, or tongue, or a straw, which of course I forgot to bring one over to demonstrate with, but you just seal your lips around the straw and sing through it, okay? The reason these are great is it really helps you feel resonance. You're gonna feel lots of buzziness in your nose, lips, teeth, and tongue. You're gonna start to recognize that forward energy of sympathetic vibrations happening in your face, which is known as the resonance, right? And the reason this is that the back pressure of the air that's getting reflected back, that's not allowed to come through the lips because it's partially blocked, is optimizing the open and close rate of your vocal cords. It's also helping keep your larynx in a pretty neutral position. So all of that is very sciencey, and it's pretty fascinating. If you want to know more about it, feel free to email me or look up some of this stuff. It's fascinating. But basically, the reason why it's so important as singers is that it creates an effortless singing condition. And it's important to start to recognize what that feels like, because if your body can kind of go into that immediate setting where you're feeling effortless and you're not straining and you've got the right amount of open and close happening on the chords, you are going to sing with much less effort, and it's going to be a lot more sustainable. So starting to practice in this way, these exercises train the body to just sit right into that pocket, okay? And it also helps us develop resonance, and resonance is so important. It's, again, a sustainability thing. You can get louder and more powerful on your voice by using force and muscle, but it's not sustainable. You're going to wear out, you're going to be tired, and you're going to get scratchy, and you're going to lose your voice eventually. And with long term, you can cause damage in the form of hemorrhages or blisters or calluses on the cords, and those are pretty serious problems. So it's very important to develop resonance in your practice right away, and these are great ways to do that. And resonance creates resonance. So to the listener, right? Like, basically my sound waves are traveling out of me and toward you and hitting your ear, and you're taking it in, and then you analyze if you like it or not. And right now, being a coach and in this kind of spiritual community that I'm in, a lot of people use this word. It's sort of a trendy buzzword, so I like to make fun of it a little, but I'm happy that it's on the radar for people, because everybody will say something like, oh, I really resonated with what you just said. Sorry, I'm making fun of myself more than anything, but like, oh, that what you said really resonated with me, right? We hear that a lot now, and it's kind of a trendy Instagram buzzword, but it's true. It was something, when something resonates with you, it's actually saying that like you're vibrating on the same level as that thought or person or sound wave in this case. So if the sound wave is pleasant to your ear, it's causing resonance in you by resonating the sound wave. So when you resonate as a singer, it's allowing for a lot more overtones to develop and a lot more warmth and richness and harmonics to be in your tone, which creates that effect when you sing that people's hairs stand on end. That is resonance creating resonance. So that's fun. Okay, when to warm up, time of day, depends on your gig. For me, if you're doing an 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock gig, I like to warm up about 3 p.m. or so after lunch, but before dinner. And then I like to rest my voice, like pretty much silence until the gig, and then I'll reawaken the voice in the car a little bit. And that leads me to, can I warm up in the car? And the answer is yes and no. So yes, you can, but really to get a full body warm up, that's not very efficient, because you can't stand up or do any body work and your posture is compromised. So I like to warm up in the car right before the gig just to kind of reawaken my voice. And I will attach in the show notes, I have a car warm up that I created, and you can use that if you'd like. But I recommend doing a warm up on your feet and in a space where you can actually get a little physical with it. How long do you need to warm up? It depends on the day, what you're working on. If you are going for a full gig, I would go for 20-30 minute warm up. Get yourself to the point where you maybe feel that little dewy bead of sweat on the upper lip or the forehead. You're starting to kind of be actually warm to the point of sweat. If you're just trying to maintain, and like you are somebody who's like, you don't have a gig that day and you've done a big practice session yesterday and you really just want to like make sure you're just kind of keeping on point with your warm-ups and exercises, 10 minutes is all you really need. So it doesn't have to be long. A lot of people, I think, avoid warming up and doing exercises because they feel overwhelmed that it's going to take up a bunch of time, and it doesn't have to. Okay, moving on. Cooling down is something not many people do, even in the pro world, but it's, again, singing is an athletic event. So if you could imagine playing an NBA game and then just going sitting straight on the couch after that without any like tapering down, it would be, it's not the worst thing in the world, but it leaves you feeling very stiff and very sore the next day. So a lot of the reasons why we stretch after, for example, a spin class or a bar class, or why a yoga class in the end will have you end up down on the mat and doing slower movements, is to kind of taper that practice down and allow the muscles to kind of return to a relaxed state instead of just going from full speed ahead to stop, right? That's asking for injury. It's asking for stiffness, tightness, fatigue, all of those things. So it's important on the actual physical mechanism to taper off that work. Secondly, it's really great for the mind. You need to wind down, and singing is really exciting. It's very energetic. So we get really wound up, and then we have to come down and like come home. And I find that nights that I sing, it's often hard for me to get off to sleep because you still have adrenaline coursing through your body and excitement, and you're just all alive. So the cool down is a good way to kind of signal it's time to unwind. And I would do it just in the reverse of the anatomy of a warm-up. And I'll have a chart here you guys can download. It's a little checklist, and it goes one way then the other. You don't need to do as many like nasopharyngeal exercises, or like you don't have to push the edges of the range as much because you just did that whole singing event. So if you're coming back from a show, I would say just, some sirens, some humming, some deep breathing, and just kind of set the voice down gently instead of just tossing it, right? So reverse the order of a warm-up basically. And then, if you're ready for bed, maybe do your cool down in the car as you come home from the gig. And then when you get home, take off your makeup and change out of your clothes and get ready for bed, brush your teeth. And then when you're in bed, maybe steam and meditate. Or you can count your breaths, which is a nice way to calm down after a gig. You can count in for 4 breaths, or breathe in for 4 counts and out for 6, or 6 and 8, or whatever. Another great way to kind of focus and calm down is to plug one nostril and inhale, and then switch and exhale, and then do the same. Inhale here, exhale here. And you can also count to that if your mind is really busy, just counting helps. You could also do a body scan, just focusing on the breath, closing your eyes and sending your attention to the top of your head, and then the forehead, and then the cheeks and the jaw and the neck and the chest, so on and so forth, all the way down to your toes. And just see if you can kind of soften the body little by little. See what's there. Are you fidgeting? Are you tired? Are you sore? Just see what's there. Okay. Here's the schedule, my ideal schedule. So in the morning, I'm hydrating, exercising, I'm preparing for the gig, I'm picking out my outfit, setting aside my makeup, anything that needs to be ready. I want to do that now because there's nothing like freaking out in your closet and trying not to be late to a gig to make you super tense and stressed, which will affect your vocal tone. By 12, you guys, your meals might come at different times, but on a singing day, you want to eat pretty healthy, high in water in your foods, and you want lots of protein and fiber so that you're full. I also recommend carbs on this day. So not super heavy stuff that's going to make you super overly full, like pizza and dairy and pasta. You want carbs like brown rice or quinoa, stuff that's going to keep you full and feeling energized, because singing does take a lot out of you. By 3 p.m., we're doing a full vocal warm-up followed by a vocal rest. By 6 p.m., we're getting ready for the gig and steaming and hydrating and warming up that last time. And then by midnight, we are tapering down after the gig. Now, of course, this timeline is pretty loose. So after your gig, you're kind of tapering down again. Okay, I didn't talk about people who hang out at the bar and drink after their gigs. That's another episode, but we'll get there. You can do that stuff too if you're somebody who's social. They don't necessarily exclude one another entirely. Okay, so the importance of a warm-up and cool down can't be stressed enough. That's by Jamie Redknapp. He is a footballer, which I'm pretty sure means he plays soccer in the UK. So he's an athlete, but so are we. So this is just as important to us. Taper warm ups and cool downs so that the gentlest actions are on the end caps. You want to kind of, the gig's this big ball in the middle, and then the warm up and cool down should taper off. Okay. Warm up and then rest the voice whenever you have the time for that, if that's possible. Otherwise, you just do that 15 minutes on the way to the gig. That's enough if you don't have this full day schedule to manage like I showed you. A little bit is always better than none. So same with your practice routine and your warm-up routine. Just a little bit, 10 minutes will get you pretty far in a warm-up. So, if you feel like, well, I can't do it for half an hour, so I might as well not do it at all, that black and white thinking rarely applies to singing very effectively. So a little is always better than none. And then cool down to avoid stiffness the following day and to unwind your mind after a gig. Those are my tips for your very best warm up and cool down habits. And I'll attach some resources for you. The car warm up will be in there. And then also my full body warm up will be there. And if I find anything else when I'm creating the show notes, I'll pop it in there as well for you. But there's a million great things on YouTube you can find as well. Okay. Have an awesome day. Thank you for watching Love Your Larynx, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.